What's up, Buffalo gals and impals? Grace and Todd here to talk about the hardcore and specifically one of the greatest hardcore acts to ever grace the music scene, Every Time I Die. This is actually not my first video on Every Time I Die, for I had previously tried to do one of my patented Grace and Todd's Song the Song videos where I pinned every Time I Die song against one another. I was making like a greatest hits. I guess that's what I do. The issue came though, Every Time I Die's discography and musical qualities are so good that I was fucking killing myself. They have so much music. They've been doing this shit for like 21 years. So I was gonna have to split it up into like 3 40-minute videos. No one was gonna watch that, and it was gonna take me way too long to edit those videos and put it out with the limited precious time that I have. So I thought maybe I switch things up a bit. So instead, we will go through Every Time I Die album and pick out the best moments, the most perfect representative moments of the legacy of this band. This has left me with complicated thoughts since Every Time I Die is probably the only reason I enjoy hardcore today and the only reason why my musical tastes are the way they are. And since I dedicate so much of my channel to talking about bands I don't actually like, I figured I could talk about one I actually love for a change. So welcome. This is the best of Every Time I Die, according to me. So to truly understand this band, we must go back to their very beginning. And by that, I mean hot damn. I'm sure Our Last Sign in Town is good. I'm sure there are moments that I enjoy on that album. It's just overall, it's a little rough and not evocative of anything that I would go on to enjoy from the very band that I love so much. And I think that's okay. To hold a band so sacred and so dear, you're interrupting me, my God. I just don't listen to that album and we're fine. And with that, we begin with The Hot Damn, an album that improves on their debut attempt while also showing a little bit of flourish of the band they would become, featuring some early renderings of the sort of ideas and concept that Keith Buckley will play with. One of the first moments that always sticks out to me is Romeo a Go Go. Tonight I'm coming the way his voice just kind of shakes through it adds a different quality to hardcore. There's always a vulnerable quality about Keith's voice that I enjoy, that quivers through the guitars as they're blaring at the heaviest riffs, the heaviest riffs you've ever heard. Sure, Off-Broadway has the I'm dressed to kill, I'm weightless and well rehearsed. I'm dressed to kill. In My Gala's opera, in his opera of his own, the opera that he plays before himself, which leads to one of their first big crowd call moments when they scream 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, keep it up, 1, 2, 3. And I would be so sorely remiss if I looked over one of the first songs that I remember being circulated by the band, Ebola Rama, with that roller skating rink music video. I like what he's doing here, this violent yet poetically alluring way of writing. Boys, we've tricked the pigs into thinking this auction is a pageant. In no time, there'll be makeup on our new set of cutlery. You find in a lot of these bands that they sing such intense, violent words, imagery of war and concepts that are so much bigger than like what a metal band obviously. But when Every Time I Die tackles the real life violence and oppression just put on people on a daily basis, the anger feels justified. I must say that She's My Rushmore though wins hot damn with the line, the greatest lovers were murderers first. The greatest lovers were murderers first! Now, Get a Phenomenon is when we started to see the band really stretching their muscles, really giving a taste of where they will go and what they will become. Writing some material that I feel stands up there with some of their very best on their latter albums. We have Kill the Music, opening with that jaguar growl, some sort of animalistic guttural growl, before going into a rock and roll, hardcore, hot rod mess. My personal favorite from Kill the Music, and the one that has always stuck with me, there's no difference between being holy and alone. That's why I'm eagerly fleeing the scene. The way he just reams out on certain words and they just let it fill the speakers. Kill the Music perfectly demonstrates that blending of the two worlds between that southern rock and roll charm and that Buffalo, New York hardcore scene, and I think it's fucking beautiful. Of course, we have Easy Tiger with the callback to that 80s power pop song that goes, Doctor, Doctor, give me the news, I got a bad case of loving you. Not really something you need to seek medical treatment for. Every Time I Die plays on the words for no other reason than I think he just thought it was funny. Their version goes, Doctor, Doctor, give her the blues. Is the doctor the varsity? He was on the varsity team. Always a standout moment from that song. Just like in Tuscan Tampa, when Keith writes, I was born a wanted man, but I'll die a sailor's wife. I always enjoy imagery of the sea, though nothing can be the writing present in the New Black. It's why it is one of their most iconic songs even to this day. The single moment that sticks out the most to me is when he says we can make our way to the dance floor and stand like strangers in an elevator stuck between stories. The way he just gives it a little bit of a southern twang that sets the emotion for like the least sexual experience, standing still on a dance floor like people in an elevator, like two strangers, and you're just like, and that is why I'm giving the New Black the crowning achievement from Gutter Phenomenon. I also enjoy screaming that I know the stripper's real name, mostly because I care. 2004 brought the Big Dirty, and the first time that I fell in love with this band, truly, utterly f***ing fell in love with them. That one kicks off with No Son of Mine, a song that's much more of a rallying cry than any sort of structured musical experience, with my personal favorite line being leave. You're drunk and accident at the prom, and I'm grown. Are you talking about your own mom, Keith? Are you the drunken accident? Is it your brother? Who's the older one? Hang 'em high, keep your mouth free. Song number 2, Pigs Be a Pigs. A thing that we know, pigs is pigs. I'm just no good at court-ordered goodbyes. Would those court-ordered goodbyes be for the drunken accident that you should have left at the prom? Of course, Pigs is Pigs has that pounding, fucking heavy, guttural scream of hang 'em high or not at all. Let them swing, make his swindle an art. And if you still believe that men guilty of love can survive, then hang them high or not at all. And it's in this moment that I have shivers. It is not the last time that I would. For Werewolf is nuts, and Werewolf is such a perfect blending of everything this band is, from the rock and roll to the nostalgia to the clever commentary on masculine urges to become creatures, to become monsters. to be conscious of it, that the real monsters are the ones that give in, the ones that are scared to get caught giving in because they like the blood, they like the hunt, they like the thrill of the night. And to be able to call out like toxic masculine behavior within the hardcore genre while also making music that stands up, thrashes you in your face, punches you in your fucking respect. There's just like a sexiness to it. Like, I don't want to Keith, but I can feel, I can pretend to be this character that he's being. And I feel like his vocal performance perfectly represents every emotion that he's trying to get across. Rendezvous is a sceney song. It's probably one of their most songy songs to sing. I like how he says, you better get good while the good is getting you better. The goddamn riffs that these boys put together, they never outstay their welcome. They're always appropriately utilized, and they're always reiterated in different interesting ways throughout the music. Andy Williams is a talented dude in many forms, and I respect him for his guitar work. My favorite moment in Rendezvous would have to be the end is near and I will be delivered. Being kind of a shithead and pushing the world towards an apocalyptic end that you think will save you, and then realizing that, hey, maybe I don't deserve to be saved. The album ends on a very potent message, one that stuck to me as a young teenager and one that I tried to consider when making my own art.
It is better to destroy than to create what is meaningless.
It is better to topple than to create the same vapid bullshit that you just consume again and again. That made me really think about why I was producing what I was producing and why I wanted to produce it. It really feels like they're always having fun with the music while also taking the material seriously. We've come to the new junk aesthetic. If it's the aesthetic of the artwork in the album, I'm all for it. I like this album. I think there's cool, groovy riffs on it. Apparently Pete Wentz is in it. I've never noticed Pete Wentz in the song, but I've been made aware that he's in it. One of the first moments that's gonna pop out to you on this album is in the marvelous Slut. If death's coming, it best come quick. I'm all yours. With the names, one might think this is an edgier band, but I think they kind of take on the veneer and the aesthetics of edgier, harder bands, ones that have fantasy about like murder, and they kind of like flip it on its head, like in Who Invited the Roman Soldier when he says, you're going to wish you were me when the unexpecting are dragged to their graves and you're on the edge holding a rose. Fascism, a fascist ruling takeover isn't far out of the question and isn't too far out of the purview. I really think that this band is a lot more politically and socially aware than maybe they are given credit for, or maybe they are given the credit for it. I don't know. I don't really talk to anybody. Wanderlust feels like it is trying to recapture the emotional potency. Feels like it is trying to recapture the melodic hookiness and fun whimsy that Werewolf was talking about. This time he is talking about how just happens to wonder, you know, if my hands happen to find themselves another body, you can't blame me for trying to keep warm. My personal favorite line from Wanderlust: can't tell collapse that it needs to slow down, and can't tell death it shouldn't come around. He's gonna come anyways. He don't follow your goddamn rules. He don't care if you're not ready. This record really feels like they're trying in every song to create these moments organically. Absolutely feels like each album I find more moments that stick with me that I enjoy. They are really effective, and I must admit when they are. Lord have mercy
of my soul. I've had a good run, but can't run it.
Just put me down. Just this begging for some sort of like omniscient force to just tear you down. Like, can't you see I've suffered? Organ Grinder turns that camera around on societies as a whole, talking about how we're all just animals. All the world's a cage and we are animals pounding on the glass. Housebroken, declawed, unaware of the threat, but hooks that keep us in line while cameras flash. The awareness of how neoliberalism plays into fascist rhetoric, how we are declawed, house-trained, domesticated, how the American public, through manufactured consent of our media and political figures, shape our own destruction by being complacent.
You are the voice of God. So
Which is why Big Brother will keep us in line with snipers on the roof.
my cancer came knocking. It was trapped to the night.
So I peeled back my skin and let it inside. The guests have gone. No, it pours itself a drink and requests another song. He invited the poison, the harmful things into his body willingly, but now they linger, the damage has happened, and he is now helpless to this guest that has overtaken the house. But nothing beats the opening moments on this album in Roman Holiday. We cut our teeth on the bedroom. We slit our wrists in the costumes. Witches.
Death of the party. We are the life.
The power behind him singing it, the power behind the guitaring lets you know that they may have been signed to a bigger label, but they're still gonna do their goddamn darnest to bring you something heavy, which is why Roman Holiday is gonna remain my favorite moment on this album. I think it is about time for us to count down the top rat mentions by Keith Buckley. Throughout the career of Every Time I Die, they have made a lot of mentions to rats. This is a countdown of them. Okay, so I'm just gonna do a top 5 of the rats because there's actually more than 5 songs in Every Time I Die's catalog that mentions rats. So I'm just gonna do top 5, okay? Number 5 comes to us from Parts Unknown. Did you smell a rat? Number 4 is gonna be Glitches with It's a Trap. Lay the bait, catch the rat. Can't forget about our number 3 slot, the King with the Blaze with Lights On, Rats Out. Number 2, we're gonna see Godspeed Us to the Sea, where we say let the rats orchestrate the new mutiny. I'll meet you overboard. Oh no, our cherries have died. Our number 1 rat reference in an Every Time I Die song comes from No Son of Mine, where he sings that rat has its mother's eyes. And that has been the top 5 rat references in an Every Time I Die song. Back to you, Grayson. X-Lives confronts you right off the bat in the cover with the anti-cop feeling. The emotional intensity that you get from that cover lets you know exactly what you're gonna be in for. And you hear it from moment 1. I want to be dead with my friends. I want to be dead with my friends.
Where the iron sharpens the iron. Where the iron sharpens the iron.
There's just like a pounding pressure in the song that does make it feel like a march forward, like we're suiting up for battle. Between holy books of dilemmas,
Separate hearts are the whole of the world.
this instance finds Keith singing with every breath in him, emptying out his lungs. They separate their heart from the duty, and you might say that's a goddamn job, but I say nay. Something that they explore in the song, a wild, seamless pain. The very last moment of the song being a very potent expression of big game hunting, really just paints the kind of person that they are talking about. You've never seen the blood blood you've drawn or the look in the eyes of the kill you claim was yours for taking a picture with it brings to mind the CEO of Jimmy John's or other rich
There was whiskey in the devil's blood, and there was blood in my
typical miracle turns it back around on the self. I need a new rock bottom. I need a new low. I need to find a new depth to go. But there is a lot of good imagery here with the devil. There was whiskey in the devil's blood, and there is blood in my cup. He's getting drunk off the devil, so I will make me a better grave. Like he's trying to be this great disaster of a person, this great fiery flame to go out, and probably won't work that way. As highlighted in the low roads that have no exits, from the cradle to the grave, it has been a walk of shame. So fucking potent, so fucking pointed. Is there anything else about the song that I remember? That's the thing. I connect to these, I hold on to these, but the song around them are good enough that when these moments come, they're impactful, and they're exactly as impactful as they need to be. Rival Mode takes a more traditional approach to songwriting, giving you kind of a catchy, singing chorus with the twangy southern rock guitar songs.
Thanks, Lord, but I don't need any more.
Horror advice. Like Christianity has no effect on him because he doesn't need any poor advice. He's caught in the canon with a one-way ticket. There's 4 riders in a town with 1 horse. I don't know what it means, but it always makes me giggle. There's 4 riders of the horsemen, the apocalypse, yes. In a town with 1 horse, so like he's the apocalypse. In this town, he's a rival apocalypse, is a horse belonging to the sheriff. If I was to pick a best moment from Et's lives, it would have to be the very ending to the opening track, Underwater Bimbos from Outer Space. I refuse to be the only man.
Put your rest in a mass grave.
You were all there with me. It takes the air out of your lungs, just how intense that hits. And nothing makes me more hyped for an Every Time I Die album than their opening track. They know how to put on a show. So my relationship with Every Time I Die has been sort of a rocky one. Not a rocky one. Basically got really into the Big Dirty, fucking loved the new junk aesthetic, and then just stopped listening to them. But it wasn't just some, it was like all hardcore. I just didn't want to hear anything aggressive anymore. I was getting into more ska, I wanted DIY punk, I wanted something that was a little more personal. So it's only been recently that I have been able to go back and catch up with Et's Lives, with From Parts Unknown, with Low Teens, and especially with the new one, Radical. And I have to admit that From Parts Unknown is the one that speaks to me the least. Looking at it on a musical level, it is representing everything I do love about this band while bringing some of their most melodic and elevated material that they have ever written, making grand rock songs that feel almost between The Buried and Me and what other more progressive hardcore bands were doing at the time. But overall, it's just not a mood that has really caught me like the other albums have. There are still moments I have found to enjoy, and I am gonna share those with you right now. Pelican in the Desert has that like chorus where it hits "Love is the only way, love is the only way." I like this aggressive affirmation of love, how it can like save you, how it's just like everything's gonna try and rip you apart from the things that give you comfort. Love is the one thing that can get you out of it, motherfucker. Peel back the leather and tear out your heart, like your skin has gotten so hard and crusted over that it's leather. And thirst, of course, I always sing to They Don't Love You.
Like I do, but I don't know you like them.
He's not saying he's a good lover. He's not saying he's better for her. He's just saying he knows the kind of relationship you need, you deserve. Maybe taking on the role of an asshole himself. Of course, Decaying with the Boys is one of the most highlighted moments.
Kill the lights, kill the lights, kill
about the women in the hardcore scene, the Buffalo Girls getting a shout out from the hardcore boys themselves. Kill the lights, I've seen too much. If so, below, then as above. Lord knows, I've seen enough. It's probably one of their catchiest choruses. It's probably one of the catchiest things they've ever written. If there is room, when he slams, everything is dead until it's alive. Man will exist, then he will die.
Just take the ride. Just take the ride.
Another slamming kind of confession about the journey and the experience that we're on. And those are the moments I enjoy from Parts Unknown. It's just not my favorite stuff from them, because that comes up next. Some of the most haunting, heavy musical moments I have ever come even close to experiencing. Map Changes being one of the most emotionally impactful songs. A storm's coming and the city is abandoned. The ship goes down with the captain. Oh. There's an emotional, sorrowful drive in every second. I am the man who sank Atlantis. The bottom is not the lowest we get. I sank the city, a future of promise, of hope, all culminating for me in one of my most purely emotionally releasing moments when he screams that, I assure you. The haunting sense of weight that he just has on himself. You feel him weighing down the earth. You feel the stars being pulled down to the pavement. That emotional resonance seems something unobtainable from a band who wrote the Big Dirty. And that's not even my favorite moment on this album. Right before, we have 1977 with Come Up to the Surface, the Ice Age has passed. The way the instrumentals are just slamming behind it is just such a perfect moment that feels like they hit 3 or 5 times throughout the song, but it is relatively just a one pointed moment. The Coin Has to Say has a perfectly pointed moment when it says, fuck these people, fuck this place. It's just like, but for some reason, one of the moments that I connect with most is at the end of Pedal, where he says, untimely ripped into this world. I was born again as a girl. For some reason, having my favorite hardcore singer scream gutturally about being born again as a girl, for some reason, that just hits me in a place. There is more behind it, for I found this tidbit. For it is a Shakespearean reference from Macbeth, where Macduff, who is pursuing Macbeth in order to kill him, but Macbeth says he cannot be killed by any man born of a woman. Unfortunately for Macduff, from his mother's womb, untimely ripped. Basically, Macbeth is saying, you can't kill me, I was born from a woman, bitch. And he's like, nah, you were C-section. He's being ripped from his family, from his loved ones, from his wife, who was in danger of losing their child in the moment. There's parallels between the real world things that are happening and the emotions that he's feeling, plus he's adding in literary layers to it. It comes together to be just one of the ultimately perfectly written and crafted moments on the album, only being outshined with such incredible songs, such as this nihilistic sense of just wanting to be surrounded by chaos because you feel yourself are always surrounded in chaos. Plus a little reference to what I believe is werewolf. I still howl like an animal in the darkness, and I'm reminded by the blood on my clothes. He shivers despite the sun. You, sun, you aren't warming me, I'm cold here. He always has to be a negative force, thus creating his loneliness. I haven't even talked about Awful Lot that has that incredible guitar riff. Plus, when he says we had such promise until we broke our promises, there's 2 summers where he's just being a sexy, sultry boy. Standing at the altar with your leather jacket on, fucked up on some new pills, got me feeling 21. We have the moment in Glitches. He's trying to find a god in his moment of desperation. He just has the same old sins that he keeps coming to you with. But nothing can beat our opener in Fear and Trembling. There are just so many moments that sink deep into my psyche, that resonate with me deep into the night when I am searching for something to sing. A different sort of screaming, dirtier, heavier, muddier feeling to it, one that is appropriately weighted to the broken, worn emotions that he is getting across. Death will haunt us, it will break us, it will ruin us, but it will never tear us apart. Love keeps us together. Love is a glue. And I've never felt so sad about that love before. So as we come to our last album on our journey through the discography of Every Time I Die, it is about time we talk about their latest at the band's most emotionally fractured time period, but somehow came together to probably be one of their best all-around records. I don't know how I feel. I never got to see them tour this album. To look at Hot Damn and then to look at Radical, I don't think you would be able to predict it as a gradual evolution that happened from album to album, creeping in from every corner of their songs, which is why I think this band is so interesting to look at as like a whole movement, as a wave, and try and parse out like what are the best moments. And Radical does not disappoint from the name, from the album work, promising you one radical experience. And for once, the first song is not my favorite one. I know, I'm a whore for the opening tracks, though the opening plea to spare only the ones I love and to kill all the rest, to slay all the rest. Pretty potent, especially given the time period this album came out in 2021. Rough times. This is Every Time I Die, cutting through all the bullshit, being as explicitly in your face as they can possibly be. Worldwide recall of defective machines, all-consuming, deaf, blind, and dumb, as seen on TV. We mimic what we see on TV, become complacent in our neoliberalism, manufactured consent. We talked about this. We're continuing these thread lines. Recall the machines that are asking for the recall to the election that was. Next on Sly has a very energetic, just like slam, almost, I don't know, turnstile-y. The way that they hit like awesome as a miracle, the way that they harmonizing and like elevating it really resonates and hits your ears just right. Then flowing into song number 3, Planet Shit. This is just like a solid. Keith really letting his perspective be known. Coming live from Planet Shit, our only hope was in a murder kid. The one god we had went off the grid. Over that guitar riff that's just like dancing. Thrashy song that does harken back to their older music before we hit just that heavy fucking breakdown with we've been having some issues lately. Here in America, we've been having some issues. And we're exploring that. And it's like the thought process that they go through there, the escalation of like, yeah, let's give them rope. Okay, the guillotine leading to one of my favorite moments on this album. We stand no chance without your heads. I want heads. Fuck you. Die. If you're gonna write a song called Planet Shit, if it's gonna be on an album called Radical, it needs to be in your face. It needs to be turned up to 11. And it's reminiscent, Kill the Music. It's reminiscent of Ebola Rama, but it's also this new kind of powerful intensity. And as soon as it ends, we start slamming into that bass line of post-boredom. My annihilation started before I did. My annihilation started before I did. Perhaps speaking to Hereditary, your annihilation, your self-destruction, maybe alcoholism, drug dependency, how that began before you did because it was passed on. Everything around us was built up and propped up before we were even born. You'll get more nothing. I really like the imagery in A Colossal Wreck when he says a prison ship abloat in wrath. Noah's Ark compared to a slave ship being driven by ideology, treating people like animals. It's imagery that they've touched on before, but it's just being done in a different emotional way. Desperate pleasures have the will out your gods. These are desperate times. The drum crazy intro that just builds like a voodoo chant, prepping you for just a headbanging intense song. And then there's just like a slew of songs that all fucking hit hard. Special mentions to Hostile Architecture with the I'm sorry's that just dribble on forever. AWOL when he says the space between us is like a crime scene. And in The Whip, where he says fear is a fetish and I am a masochist. We consume things that make us scared, that whip us in a frenzy, that has us consuming more things that make us scared until we're caught up in this system and these lies. But one of my absolute fucking favorite parts is in All This War when he says, then we war, and then we war, that's all we are. That's all we are. Yeah, and then we war, and then we war. Hard to argue with that. But all this has come down to my favorite fucking moment on Every Time I Die album, because it is the moment that I feel everything has been building up to. It speaks to who they are as a band, what they speak to as musicians, and where they come from. And that is in the song Sly, when he says, read me my rights, my last right, then read them again. Give my love to Buffalo, Buffalo! In his moments when he's being executed, when the fascist regime has taken over and he is on his knees, his response is gonna be, give my love to Buffalo. And that's everything this band is, regardless of how shitty the world is or the situations that they might find themselves in. The one thing that they have always held true is the love for their home scene and the passion that they give to the bands around them. I have always respected Every Time I Die for the ethics that they bring to music, to have this place you can go to, kick the shit out of each other and scream along. I think when you add all that up, Every Time I Die is not just a good band. It's not just a rad band to listen to and rock out to, but one with an important place in the scene and one that will always have a place in my heart. I'm Gracie Todd. Thank you for watching my channel. Stay swazzy, stay posy, listen to some good shit, and I will catch you on the flip side. Huh.
It feels like we're trying you out.